I had an encounter some years ago. It was actually the first year I came here because we were living in this little apartment at Shasta Lake Apartments, Kathy and I, when we first moved here. And we had 2 bedrooms. I used to pray in this other bedroom. I was laying on the floor one morning, and the Lord said, we're moving from denominationalism to apostleships. Ask me what that means. I'm learning to ask questions of the Lord. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, in denominationalism, people gather when they agree, and they divide when they disagree. Denominationalism, divided nations. How many of you know we're called to disciple nations, not divide nations? So the Lord said, in denominationalism, people gather when they agree, and they divide when they disagree. How many of you know we're Protestants? The word Protestant, at first, the word Protestant was supposed to mean pro-testament, as in Martin Luther was pro the Bible. But within about 3 months, it came to mean protester. And when Martin Luther left the Catholic Church, obviously I have no opinion about that. Some Catholic historians and Protestant historians would probably have some opinions about how that should have went. But he didn't leave over social justice issues or over a conflict with the Pope, in a personal conflict with the Pope. He actually left, the 95 Theses he nailed to the door of the church. He left over doctrinal issues. In other words, Protestantism was born in a doctrinal disagreement. And so the Lord told me, in denominationalism, people gather when they agree, and they divide when they disagree. But in apostleships, people rally around fathers, family. How many know in apostleships, they go, there's my dad, there's my mom, there's my sisters, there's my brothers. And the Lord said, I'm about to pour out revelation on this generation that's been held in the eons of ages, in the vaults of heaven for the eons of ages. But if I pour out revelation on the wineskin that people gather when they agree and they divide when they disagree, it will actually rip the wineskin. Because how many understand that the nature of revelation is that you have a new idea. And new ideas are not welcome in a wineskin where we need to agree. And by the way, if you gather in denominationalism, and by the way, I'm not talking about denominations. I should have probably made that clear from the beginning. I'm not talking about denominations. I'm talking about denominationalism. It doesn't matter what it says over the door of your church. It just matters what it says over the door of your heart. And I would say the denominational spirit is just as alive in apostolic networks in the 21st century as it is in any denominational church. So I'm not talking about I'm a Baptist, so I fit in. I'm like, maybe you do, maybe you don't, because it's not about titles, it's about heart. But in denominationalism, if people gather when they agree and they divide when they disagree, and you're a shepherd in denominationalism, if I'm a leader of a denominationalism church, and people gather when they agree and they divide when they disagree, what do I have to make sure people don't do? I have to make sure they don't disagree. What's it take to have a disagreement? An opinion. What's it take to have an opinion? A thought. What do I have to make sure you don't do? I have to make sure you don't think. So I don't preach to inspire you, I preach to convince you. How many understand that in denominationalism, I don't preach to inspire you, because if you start thinking, you'll have an opinion. And if you have an opinion, then guess what's going to happen? If your opinion is different than my opinion, then we split. The challenge is, see how deep we're going to go here. The challenge is that in denominationalism, if you disagree with me, how many of you know that I typically brand that as disloyalty? Because we're together because we agree. Therefore, you don't have permission to disagree with me. In other words, I tend to see how much you value me by how much you agree with me. I'd like to suggest to you that you have permission to love anyone no matter whether they agree with you or not. And that when you start to put a value system on people that you say, if you valued me, you would agree with me, how many know that you're going to manipulate people?